we have breaking news for you this morning. That British couple on board the quarantined Diamond Princess cruise ship have tested positive for the coronavirus.
Yeah, David and Sally Abel, who've been speaking to you throughout their 2 weeks in quarantine, have both just received their positive diagnoses and will now be taken in for observation in Japan into a hospital there, we believe, or a hostel. We're not quite sure what's going on with them. We'll find out from Lorna in a minute. At least 13% of all the passengers on board have contracted the virus. As I say, Lorna Shaddock's back. You brought us this breaking news about an hour ago. And Sarah Jarvis is here, of course, our resident GP, along with Dr Hilary usually. And listen, let's just, Lorna, pick up on what we know. He's put up something on Facebook, hasn't he? I mean, he's been very vocal about what's been going on. We've heard they were very despondent yesterday, and now this result today. What has he said about it?
Well, you're right. Lots of people have been following David Abel's posts on Facebook. He's been posting lots of videos and lots of comments about what's going on. And he seemed quite positive at the start of this 12-day quarantine period. That's as long as they've been quarantined so far, of the 14 days. Really quite pleased with their cabin. He was posting pictures from the balcony. But this morning, first of all, we saw a post from him saying there is going to be a time of quiet. We have been proved positive and leaving for hospital soon. Blessings all. But within the last hour, he has now posted again a second post on Facebook, seeming to question those findings about being tested positive. Yeah. He says, frankly, I think this is a setup. We are not being taken to a hospital, but a hostel. That's where partners are sent waiting out their quarantine. No phone, no Wi-Fi and no medical facilities. I'm really smelling a very big rat here.
What, he's saying he thinks they're being silenced?
Well, that seems to be the implication, and lots of people have been writing underneath about that. We of course, have no way of knowing exactly what
Although it might just be that they just don't have any space in hospital. I mean, they've got thousands of people, haven't they, in hospital, I suppose?
It seems that they're being taken off the ship in some way. That seems to be the implication here. We do know, though, that they didn't want to be taken to Japan. They'd already said in early...
When we say they, is it the Japanese authorities who've taken them off, or it's...
That seems to be the implication,
right.
Exactly, yes.
Doctor, setting conspiracy theories aside, let's just assume for the moment that they're not being lied to and they have contracted the virus, even though they may well be symptom-free at the moment, as so many people are. How might they have got it, given that they've basically been locked in their cabin? They've been allowed out onto their balcony to get some fresh air, but they've not been in contact with other passengers. Well, how could they have caught it?
No, but of course people have been bringing them food. So you can bring people food in a mask, and the masks, frankly, are not terribly effective. They really aren't. The ones, the very, very well-designed ones in hospital that you get, which cover everything, are pretty good at keeping out viruses. They might reduce the chance of you passing it on, but they're not going to stop you from contracting it, especially once they get wet. However, even if people have brought the masks, what's been happening in the kitchens? So we don't know how long coronavirus survives once it's been coughed or sneezed
out.
I
was going to ask you that, because we're told to wash our hands and...
Very, very important. Still the most important piece of advice.
Would it be safe to say that the virus lives on your skin, say, for 2 hours?
It's entirely possible. And what we've seen from other viruses, this virus doesn't seem to be as deadly as SARS, so let's put it into perspective. We've had 1,770 deaths of about 70,000 people at least who've caught it, whereas so that's about 1 in 50 people.
Well, isn't that the case?
Died.
Isn't that because viruses, on the whole, as a life form, they don't like to kill us actually, because that means we can't pass them on.
No, but don't forget we have had examples like SARS killed 1 in 10 people. MERS probably killed 2 in 5 people who got it.
So how dangerous do you think this is?
I think the answer is that if you've got other medical problems, and we do know, I think, that David's got diabetes, so that will reduce his immune system. People who are older, people who have other health conditions are more likely to get the more serious symptoms. So if we look at the symptoms, 98% of people are going to get a fever. If you don't have a fever, it's very unlikely you've got it. A few people haven't had any symptoms, but about 3/4 of people have got a cough, half of people have got shortness of breath. The more serious things like pneumonia have mostly affected people who've got serious underlying medical problems.
OK, and just, Lorna, this morning the Foreign and Commonwealth Office was saying they were going to start looking at bringing people back from this cruise ship where David and Sally were. Of course, they now won't be brought back with the British.
Indeed, but we know that the Foreign Office is still working on organising a flight. The US has already repatriated over 300 of its citizens who were on board that ship. And the Foreign Office put out a statement just this morning saying, given the conditions on board, that may be an allusion to the fact this virus seems to still be spreading. We are working to organise a flight back to the UK for British nationals on board the Diamond Princess as soon as possible, and our staff are contacting British nationals.
It's late for David and Sally now, isn't it, unfortunately?
Just one more quick one for the doc before we leave you. What's your money on? Do you think it is going to get to this country and spread in the way that it spread in China?
I think it's going to get to this country. I think the chances are it probably won't spread in the way that it did in China.
Because we're on top of it?
We're on top of it. There's much better quarantines. It's not going to be, you know, everybody's been surprised, and certainly nobody's going to be covering it up. It had gone a very long way, and the reason most of these viruses start in countries like China, it's no coincidence that both these two big ones started in China, because people live in very, very close contact with each other,
right,
with animals.
Okay.